Student-centered coaching is focused on impacting student learning. The coach and teacher have a trusting and respectful partnership. They intentionally plan and work as a team to reach the common goal of improving academic achievement. During the planning process, the teacher and coach collaboratively design the number talk with a specific standards-based learning goal in mind. This includes anticipating student thinking, developing purposeful questions, and ways to support students during productive struggle. They also intentionally plan to provide opportunities for students to engage in the student mathematical practices and ways for the teacher to implement the mathematics teaching practices.
Today, we're going to think about the number talk we want to plan together based off of our last number talk that we did on fractions. Do you still want to focus on the standard that we did last time, which was standard 13, fourth grade?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it says using area and length fraction models, explain why one fraction is equivalent to another, taking into account that the number and size of the parts differ even though the two fractions themselves are the same size.
As part of the planning process, the teacher and coach will also select coaching moves that would best serve the students and the teacher. In this situation, the coach and teacher decided to teach in tandem. This gives the teacher an opportunity to focus on purposeful questioning, which is the teaching practice that she has chosen as her personal focus.
I hope that they notice that it is an area fraction model partitioned into fourths, but they may again go back to their multiplication area model, trying to make it a multiplication problem.
Like we did last time, do you want to go ahead and erase the top again after we have them wonder?
Yes, and I think we want to do that with a turn and talk this time.
Okay, so what do you hope they see or visualize before?
A number line.
Yes.
Yes, that's our goal, is for them to realize we're going from an area fraction model to a number line. Mm-hmm. We want them to see the fourths, but we also want them to make the connection that it starts out as a whole.
If they don't, then we can guide them into that thinking. We want them to hear that this is divided into fourths. So for our vocabulary, we definitely want to make sure they know about fourths. And I heard you say partition.
Partition.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to see that the number line and the model are equivalent. Mm-hmm. They're both representing a whole, they're both representing fourths before we move on to the next question.
What do you think? After they see the number line, what would be a good next question?
Label the intervals.
Okay.
And then be able to explain to us where the labels will go.
Okay. You had a good question I heard you say about them understanding 3/4 and 1/2.
We wanted to ask them, what is the distance between 3/4 and 1/2? And in that, we're hoping that they will make the connection that the distance is 1/4.
Mm-hmm. The students will be guiding our number talk. But if they are picking this up and they're understanding, what would be our next step?
I think that we can ask them, can I partition the same number line into eighths?
Okay. Yep, I love it. Since we are working on discourse, do you think that would be a good time to
turn and talk?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we also need to make sure that when we're ready to hear their responses from their turn and talk, that we ask them to share what their partner said to show that they were listening to each other.
What should we do maybe so they can see the difference between, okay, these were the fourths, now here are the eighths on that same number line?
Didn't we use two colors last time?
We did.
With this first number talk, we used one color for the halves, and when they partitioned it into fourths, we used another color. And I thought that worked well.
I think so too, because they can really see that, yes, it's the same whole, but the different colors representing those fractions. What do we expect the kids might say when we ask them, can we partition the number line into eighths?
They were able to do it last time, but they did make some errors in labeling it. So I expect that they will have some errors, especially in writing the fractions under the number line.
And hopefully, if they do give us the wrong location for each of the eighths, that others will see it and share their thinking.
I love it when they do that, because once they hear one another's thoughts or turn and talk again, they go, oh, we need to erase that.
That's right.
You know.
That's what I love about number talks, just hearing their thinking, and that's going to help us guide, especially for you when you move into small group instruction. It'll help you decide who you need to pull based off of our number talks.
During the number talk, they may share a think aloud. This is when the coach and the teacher are using formative assessment in the moment to make instructional decisions. Following the number talk, the teacher and coach will debrief and reflect on student evidence and conversations. The next step may be a follow-up number talk that builds on the student learning. They may choose to design a small group lesson that focuses on differentiation and integrates investigative learning to help students make the connection between the concrete and pictorial representations of fractions.
A good wrap-up question.
When we were preparing for the first one was, if the line continues, what would the next 2 tick marks look like, or where would the next 4 tick marks be?
Because so many times they forget that this is the whole. They think if they continue and put more tick marks that now that's the new whole.
That's right.
But we want them to see that this is the whole still.
That might be a good place to remind them of the real world situations that they might see. Talk about a pan of brownies, or see what kind of real life examples they come up with. So now we need to lead them into understanding that the 4ths and the 8ths have tick marks that are equivalent.
We want them to see that the 4ths and the 8ths share the same point on the number line because they share the same distance from 0.
That will also help make sure they're understanding that the tick mark or the space on the number line is not what they're supposed to be focusing on. They're really focusing on the space between 0 and their tick mark being the same.
If they do notice that, maybe circle both the fractions vertically and the point on the number line to show that yes, these do share a point. This whole, even though it's partitioned differently, the distance is the same.
I wonder if they are going to notice that 2/4 and 4/8 are equivalent to a half.
It will be interesting to see if they make that connection, because halves will not be written on the number line.
Right. If they don't, towards the end, before we go into our extension question, we can guide them into that.
Okay, speaking of the extension question, what are you thinking?
I think that we need to ask them what they think is going to happen if we extend our number line, what the next point will be.
The intervals between each tick mark is still the same distance. If we see that they're off, we might say, what does this space here represent?
And it represents the space, the distance from 0 to 1/4, or from 0 to 1 1/8. So at the end of the number talk, we want them to be able to explain why fractions are equivalent to one another. They take up the same space from 0 to that number on the number line.
It may take us a little bit to get there, depending on the knowledge they're bringing, but hopefully we will guide them there and their thinking will share that they do understand equivalent fractions. And if they don't, we can say, next time we know where it's going to guide us for our next number talk and for your small group instruction.
Through the collaborative partnership, the coach and teacher are able to plan number talks to provide opportunities for students to engage in mathematical discourse and develop strategies for computational thinking. We are ensuring that learning is equitable and doing our part to create a positive learning culture to improve student understanding of the standards in the Alabama Mathematics course of study.